Hey guys, it's Dmitry here, and today I will continue talking about how to create an app, or I just continue my course that I only started, right? So, and as you remember, the goal is to create a fully functional app, and like with front end and back end and database. So again, front end is going to be React.js library. That's what technology we're going to use on the front end. On the back end, it's going to be so it's going to be obviously not JS, and I'm going to use Express server, which is quite popular server. So I have no issue with this server, and yeah, we use it at work, and I'm pretty happy with that. So guys, in this particular tutorial, I would like to stay focused on creating the actual Express server, because basically we're done mostly with front-end infrastructure, and obviously now we need backend. Okay guys, first thing first, why do we need all of that, right? Why do we need backend? Why we cannot just use the front-end part and as an app and pretty much it, right? Guys, the problem is nowadays when you create a fully functional application, usually it becoming quite complex, right? You have to come up with different calculations and so on. It's always not a good idea to perform all these calculations on the front end, right? And in some cases it's just impossible. It's one of the reasons why developers and companies, they prefer to separate the logical part, or the part that responsible for all these complex calculations, and the actual front-end part or UI part, right? Which is essentially React.js part. You can treat it as a UI part, right? Which is going to interact with the user, right? Obviously, and then the backend part. This is the part where all these heavy calculations going to take place, right? So assume I'm going to give you an example. Like, you as a user, you're trying to log in, right? And you use login form, and you enter in your email and password, for example, right? And you click login, and then what will happen? We're going to call a specific service. So, and service, in our case, is going to be this Express API server, and the server is going to listen for these calls, right? And based on what kind of route we're going to call, it's going to redirect all the calls, and based on that, we're going different kind of logic going to be performed behind the scenes, right? So, and then guys, also database, right? In our case, it's going to be PostgreSQL. In example of authentication, right? When you entering your email and password, you send in the call, you send in the request, right? In order to authorize yourself, authenticate yourself, sorry. And then somehow here the logic should understand that, all right, that this person is legit, right? And what will happen? Somewhere in database, data about you as a user should be stored, right? So obviously, the database data about you as a user going to be extracted and compared against the data that was sent by you when you was entering this data, like email, for instance, and password, right? If data is the same, then obviously you're going to be authenticated, and you will be entering the actual platform or application, right? Otherwise, you going to be recognized as not legitimate user, and you're not going to be allowed to enter the platform. So I'm just trying to explain in general how it works, right? So guys, another thing is you should understand that when I'm talking about the calls, we're going to use HTTP protocol and requests and response, right? So HTTP protocol, essentially, it's we're calling in case of HTTP when we're calling, for instance, backend. And we just forgetting about that. We can receive response or we cannot, right? For instance, if connection was lost, then we will not receive any response. But anyway, it's all about details, right? I would recommend you, if you guys don't know HTTP protocol at all, don't understand how it works, just jump into that and just try to Google, try to understand how it works, because it's a lot of pieces to that. But the idea is you're using this protocol, and this protocol has headers, and in these headers you basically sending the data that you would like send back and forth, right? So for instance, it can be a JSON object, or you can be token that allow you to authenticate you as a user, right, during the session. There are many things, guys. So, and anyway, in general, that's how works, right? The whole system. And guys, again, in case of all these routes, I would like you to understand, in case of complex platforms, they're going to be a bunch of routes, like, I don't know, 100, or even can be a big number. And normally, a person who is responsible for creating all these routes from scratch is going to be a software architect, right? In a big companies, right? I'm talking about big companies. But yeah, for instance, in case of my company, we as a software developers, we do that, right? We come up with the new routes, but still you have to try to, you try to think logically why you come up with this route and why you calling this route the way you're calling it, right, and so on. So there are some complexity behind that, and yeah, I hope you understand that it's not just whatever you called it and without any reason. There is always a reason behind why you call the route the way you call it, right? For instance, in case of auth, it's essentially shortened for authentication. So I'm going to call this route if I would like to authenticate, for instance, myself, right? So guys, and yeah, also in general, I would like to mention exist the methods. You can see I specify here get. In case of get, when you call and you call in using get method, it means like you would like to get some information, right, from backend, for instance. Then another method exists which is called post. This method, essentially, it says you would like to create some data. So essentially, data like JSON object, for instance, is going to be sent in the header, right, of HTTP protocol, and then the data, usually it's going to be some of this data or all of the data going to be finally stored in the database, right? So this is the post one, right? Then what else? Delete one, right? Essentially, some piece of information going to be deleted from database. It's requested to delete something, and then it can be also put. The last one can be put. So in put, essentially, sometimes you would like to modify some information, right? Or you have data, and this data probably, it happens that sometimes it can be out of date, right? And you would like to update it, right? And this method allows you to update it, right? So to update data. So essentially, when you saying put, or when you calling this method put, backend kind of understand, or like server understand, okay, this person is trying to, or this user is trying to update something, right? And again, because it's updating, usually you're going to send some piece of data, right, or like new piece of data, right, with the new data. It's usually, I guess, it's usually a JSON object, but it also depends. But anyway, that's in general, we have like 4 different methods, right? Again, it's get, put, post, and delete. Yeah, that's how it is. Alrighty, guys. I think it's enough. I gave you some insight, and I just don't want to spend more time on that because it's there are so many pieces and it just it doesn't make any sense to discuss about that for a couple of hours. Yeah, let's move on. So guys, what I'm planning to do now, I'm planning to open my terminal, and I'm planning to create a new directory. City. Let's see, directory. Let's go to desktop and tutorials, for instance, in my case, and in tutorials I'm going to create a new directory, make dir. I will call it not tutorial. Since we have like React tutorial, I think it's logical to call it not tutorial. Cool. So now we have one, right? And yeah, so I'm going to close it. I'm going to shut it down. So now I'm going to open my VS Code. So, and in VS Code, essentially, I'm going to navigate to this new directory. And where it is, over here, Node.js, not tutorial. So guys, this is the actual directory, right? So I guess one more thing, I also just would like to go from here and just, because I think it's going to be much easier from my experience, I'm just going to Node.js and create here another folder or directory. I will call it API. Here we go. So okay, back to VS Code, right? You can see here I finally in API, right? I'm going to run npm init in order to generate package.json. Do you remember, guys, in case of front end, we did it, right? We generate dependency manager, right? And that's exactly the same approach in case of backend, right? So essentially, we're still using Node.js. We still have to create JSON package.json, and we're going to specify all the dependencies, all the libraries that we're going to use in this project. And in general, we're just going to initialize the actual project, right? So guys, okay, I'm going to open my terminal. So I guess one more thing, I'm going to create two directories here. The first one I will call the actual API, and the second one I will call database. We have both these directories because they're going to be separate. They're going to be separated projects because we need backend and we need database, right? And essentially over here I would like to store everything, or I'm going to initiate another project, and everything going to be related in this project, everything going to be related to our database. I will explain in details what will happen here, and we need schema, we need to create actual database, and yeah, there are so many pieces. Let's first focus on the backend. Let's focus on creating the Express server. Cool, guys. So first thing first, I would like to navigate to API. Okay, cool. I'm almost here. Now I am in API, right? So now I'm going to run npm init. So, and I'm just going to make everything in default keywords, and after author still going to specify myself. Again, it's not necessary, but I think it's a good practice even in our example. And that's it. So guys, you can see package.json was generated. Nothing special about this file at the moment. Oh yeah, because it's just everything by default. So guys, next step, what I'm planning to do, to install Express, the actual library, Express, right? npm install. Yeah, in order to install stuff, as you remember, we have to run npm install Express, and I'm going to specify latest, which stands for latest latest version, right? So, and yeah, you can see here, yeah, it was installed, and yeah, now we moving on. And the second thing, what I'm planning to do in the second step, install more stuff. I'm going to install, it's called Nodemon, and essentially what this thing is doing, Nodemon, why do we need it? We needed this library. It's really helpful library because it allows us to, to restart the actual server. Just imagine if you make some changes, right, while you debugging or while you creating new logic, right? And if you're not using this Nodemon, then you have to restart your database. You have to stop it and start it again, and it's going to be a manual, tedious process. But Nodemon, this library, it's doing it automatically. It's restarting database when you saving some new changes. It's just like a watcher, right? It's acting like a watcher. It's constantly watching or listening for events or for changes, and when you essentially press Control save, right, or Command save, whatever, then it's just watching and it's restarting the actual server, which is pretty cool, guys. It's a time saver. So guys, next thing, what else? Yeah, I'm going also install it's called ESLint, and I will explain you what is that. Latest ESLint. Oh my goodness. ESLint and save -dev. Guys, when I specify that, it means I'm going to save, or I'm going to specify all these install dependencies or libraries as a development ones, right? It's going to be like dev dependencies. So yeah, because we just need it in case of development, right? So let's run it. And this ESLint, essentially, guys, this library, it allows us to, it's like a plugin, obviously. And especially when you work as a team, or as a person, as a developer and you're working in a big team, right, or in a small team, so you have to maintain the certain quality of your code. And like so many people, so many minds. Some people would prefer not to implement, but like to even to locate them, they code differently, or I don't know, like to maintain code differently. But this ESLint, it's kind of allow us to do to maintain the standard I will show you how it works, but the idea is it's always going to warn you if you've done something wrong, right? Like even from the not from logical perspective, but even from how many, I don't know, spaces, like instead of like defining so many spaces, you just need to start coding like a line of code from the beginning, right? Instead of like, I don't know, from different places in the file, if it makes sense. And guys, one more thing, I'm going to use with this ESLint, I'm going to use Airbnb base extension. It's quite well-known practice nowadays, because Airbnb, I guess they already came up with that, with this styling stuff, and it's well known, like just so many companies following their practices, and I guess it's a good thing. We also at work we using that. Cool, guys. Let's move on. So I install it, then I'm going to, guys, we have to go here and type ESLint, and yeah, okay, it's already installed in my case, right? So in your case, if it's not installed, press install, and pretty much it's almost immediately going to install ESLint. Cool, guys. So next step, what I'm going to do, I'm going to create ESLint configuration, and I'm going to create it here, I guess. Yeah, okay. So I'm going to say .ESLint rc.js. Straight away you can see it defined, like it's identified as a ESLint, right, configuration. So, and yeah, over here I'm just going to copy this code because I just you know, already have it. That's it. So yeah, I guess, guys, search install, and yeah, we already okay. So I think now probably because I already can see like the time, it's already like 27 minutes. The tutorial is quite long, right? I think I'm going to stop here and I will continue in the next tutorial. But yeah, stay tuned, guys. You know, it's a lot of stuff here, and that's why it takes some time. But be patient, and yeah, I'm sure like this stuff is going to be your, you know, super important for you to understand how to do that, because so many companies, they use Express server at the backend service. So yeah, thank you very much, guys. I hope you enjoyed. Please like this tutorial. Please subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet. Yeah, and I see you in next tutorial, guys, and stay tuned, and we're going to continue creating the server, Express API server, and yeah, hopefully like in the next tutorial we're going to finalize it, and then we're going to move on to database stuff. Thank you, guys. Goodbye.